everyone. Brian LaPlante here from Halifax City Ukulele. I'm so happy you've been enjoying our Zoom sessions. The next session will take place on Wednesday, May 6th at 6 o'clock p.m. Atlantic time. The session will be all about lifts and dips. What I just showed you was a few lifts and dips that go with some chords that we already know, but our session will be focused on beginner level lifts and dips. How does it all work? Well, first of all, you need to understand what I mean when I talk about up the ukulele neck or down the ukulele neck. When we're talking about lifts and dips, we have to know the difference between moving up the neck and down the neck. When we play lifts, we are moving our chord positioning up the fretboard toward the sound hole. When we play dips, we are moving our chord positionings down the neck toward the headstock. Up the neck, down the neck. We're going to start with three really simple chord progressions that involve dips and lifts. The first one is a G6 dip. So you can see the picture. Our G6 is on the second fret with first and second fingers on the C string and the A string. And you can start by strumming it just in patterns of 4 or 8. And now we're going to slide down to the first fret. But it's not called a slide, it's called a dip. And now we're going to lift back up to the second fret. And now we're going to dip back down to the first fret. That's all it is. When we're dipping, we're moving down the fretboard toward the headstock, and when we're lifting, we're moving up the fretboard toward the sound hole. So our first positions looked like this. G6. Now you can even lift it. Our next position is the G major chord. And it looks like this, and we're going to dip that chord down to a G flat and then lift it back up to a G. Once you get comfortable with the fingerings, you can change the rhythm around so that it becomes a lot more smooth. Great. So our third position is going to be a lift that starts on the G7 chord and moves all the way up to an E6-9. So you can see we have our G7 chord and we're lifting the entire position up one fret to the second fret. Then we're lifting it up another position to the third fret. And when we get to E6-9, all we're doing is lifting the second and third finger up one more fret. Here's a bigger version of that. So we started on our G7. Now we're moving the whole thing up one fret. Now we're lifting it up another fret. And now just the second and third fingers lift up one more fret. Now let's put those fingers back. Now let's dip the whole thing down a fret. And now let's dip it back down to the G7 position. Now, the more you practice it, the more smooth you can do those lifts and dips. Neat. We're going to be adding lifts and dips into familiar songs in ways that will make the song sound a little more catchy and a little bit more fun. I really hope you enjoy this session. If we have time at the end, we'll get into the material for the next session, which will be about adding variations or different voicings to chords, alternative voicings to chords. Because as you can see, when you have a G minor or a C9 or an F, those chords are on the first fret. That means it's impossible to dip them. But if you find an alternative voicing for those, or an alternate voicing, higher up the fretboard, there are a lot more possibilities for dips and lifts. Here's what I mean. Our regular G minor chord looks like this. I can't move it down, otherwise I run out of frets. So I have to find an alternate voicing for that chord. So what I'm going to do is put it into a new position, which starts on the third fret. Same chord, new voicing. Now, as you can see, I have room to move. Neat. So we may get to that during this session, but what I want us to do is get really comfortable with lifts and dips and how they can be added into simple songs. I really hope you enjoy the session, and we'll see you then.